Welcome to another episode of Motherhood Makeup and Mindset. I am your host, Destiny McKoy, and I feel like I say this every episode, but I have spent a lot of time lately with today's guest. And that could be, because we just hosted a virtual workshop. It was called Finding Beauty Within. Maybe you might have heard about it. She is also a mama of two, an educator, a bundle of joy, and you just might know her as the very intentional mama. But if you have not already figured it out, let's welcome Aaliyah Burgess to Motherhood Makeup and Mindset, y'all. Yay! How are you today, sissy?
Today, I'm actually feeling really good. For it to be a Monday, and usually Mondays are supposed to be my ease into the week reset day. Yeah, it's actually been a lot of reset. So I'm feeling really good.
I'm proud because we definitely need a reset after the last couple of months that we've had in preparation for that event.
Yes.
So I'm proud that at least one of us is resetting.
I'll do the reset for us.
I need a couple more days and then I'll be there right along with you.
I think you need a week. Just hibernation for a week.
That would be nice.
It would.
We'll see. Because this comes out in a week. Well, not this episode, but this season comes out in a week. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But before we get into our topic, I have an icebreaker question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The question is, I want you to use the never have I ever statement, but the mom edition. So never have I ever ...
Let's see. Oh, yes, this is one I had to think about. Okay. Never have I ever spazzed out on my kids.
Ooh, yeah. And how have you accomplished that? We're going to get into that.
Look, I was like, I might need to go a little deeper into what spazz out means because I feel like it means different things for different people. So, okay. For me, spazzing out, because I've done it before, and if my sister ever hears this episode, I am so sorry. I was a traumatized child and you experienced that. And whenever I think of the word spazz out, it takes me back to a moment when I was really frustrated with my sister, and it probably was because of something my mom wanted me to do for her. And I'm the oldest, so I always got that kind of co-parent relationship where everybody looked at me second to make sure everything was in order. And my sister had did something, and so I was upset, and I think I backed her into our closet room, and I was almost to the point of ready to hit her. So to me, that is what spazzing out looks like. Spazzing out is to the point where you're literally about to hit somebody. You're about to full on, you're yelling at them, spazzing out. So I have never spazzed out on my kids.
Okay. I'm glad you gave that definition because you're right. There are different levels to spazzing out. I have not physically spazzed out on them as I'm not about to just start swinging. I might want to. But I don't.
It might be my head.
Yeah, I haven't gone that far. Have I spazzed out as far as yelling? Yeah. I'm guilty, especially those days where they're just on 1,000 and my capacity might not be at 1,000. It might be at 10. So there's a big difference between 10 and 1,000.
Yes.
And I think it's more of an overstimulated thing. Though, it's not just the kids, it's more the TV is on. Yes. On the highest level. The toys are being turned on and then left in the middle of the room. Why do they do that? I don't understand. If you're going to turn it on and play with it. Yeah. It's the TV is on, the toys are on, all of you are humming 3 different tunes. The washer machine is on, the dryer is on, the dishwasher is on.
Mm-hmm. Let's not
I'm trying to focus.
All the other thoughts that are running through your head of what you have to do, what you already did that you need to look back over. Yes. Once we start adding all of that, it's it's understandable why we want to spazz out.
Yeah. And if you get to that point and I have repeated myself multiple times and all of that is happening, we have a problem.
Yes.
We have a problem. But that is the perfect segue into our topic today because, very intentional mama, we are going to talk about gentle parenting while Black. And I love that we have specified the while Black part because there are some stereotypes that we're going to talk about in a little bit around gentle parenting.
Yes.
And if you tell a Black person who is unfamiliar with gentle parenting that you are going to be gentle parenting, there is like this assumption that you will just let your kid do whatever.
Absolutely.
And to the extreme of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, we're going to talk about that in a little bit because I do want you to put a stop to some of these myths.
Yes.
Because I think it's necessary for us to fully understand what gentle parenting while Black is, and not just while Black and being a Christian. Because another thing Black people like to do is bring the Bible and stuff, and they might not quote it correctly or they might not interpret it correctly.
Right.
And there's one specific scripture that comes to mind that everybody talks about: "Spare the rod, spoil the child." And it's like, okay, what exactly does that mean? Mm-hmm. So before we get in there, because I didn't went off on the deep end already, I want to know what inspired you to adopt gentle parenting with your two kids? Because you have two adorable babies.
Yes, my little loved ones. So, if I had to place like a moment, first, all my life, once I decided, like, yes, I definitely want to be a mom because I was the child who had a cousin and I was 12 years old who wrote me a letter and she told me, "You're going to be a great mom one day." I'm 12 years old. Aww. I don't know why that was told to me at 12 years old.
Yeah, it's a bit early, but all.
But she always said, "You are going to be a great mom one day." And so I just knew that it was going to take me probably doing things that I didn't see to be this great mom. And so I want to say that it was when my daughter was about 1. Now, like I said, I already had some things in mind before I even had her where I was like, I'm not going to do this and we're going to do this. But things change once you have those babies. And it was a moment where I think she was dealing with a really hard time. And I was just like, this is what I'm really passionate about. I am really passionate about kids knowing how to, especially in the Black community, knowing how to take their emotions and not be told you're being too sensitive or you're too young to have anything to cry about. And being able to know how to talk to other people and express themselves. So that's what really pushed me was once I had my own kids and realizing that I was an adult who didn't know how to emotional regulate. I said, something we change. Because if I'm dealing with it, I know there's somebody else out here who's dealing with it as well.
That is so good. And you just brought up a good point too about us being adults and not understanding how to regulate our own emotions. That is part of what sent me on the path of, I guess, quote unquote, gentle parenting, because my biggest thing was y'all are going to understand how to regulate your emotions and express your emotions, and you're going to learn how to communicate. Now, in my journey, because I'm still learning, but in my journey, I feel like I've given them a little bit too much of the leeway. They're at the point now where they're like, okay, our feelings matter, but there's a line between your feelings matter and I'm still mommy. Mm-hmm. And I said what I said, but not saying I said what I said. So it's like, because we try not to do the I said so, but sometimes I said so is called for also. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a very thin line.
Very much so. It's taking that back to that point, like, okay, instead of I said so, what's the last thing I said to you? Oh, okay. We're going to leave it at that.
That's good, actually. So instead of because I said so, you could replace that with, what is the last thing I just said to you? Mm-hmm. And if they don't know, that's a problem. And I was going to say, they probably weren't listening.
That even takes us back to sometimes with God, there's things that we come to him about where we ask, like, okay, Lord, I'm trying to figure out what's the next steps. Where are you trying to send me to? And he'll bring us back, because he has done it to me several times. And he's like, what did I tell you to do last time? What have you not done that I've already told you to do? So not only with this way of parenting are we teaching our children to listen to us, but we're also teaching them how to be more obedient to God and what he is calling us to do.
Oh, we going there. Okay.
We going there.
Okay. I love that though. And it really is so true. If we can't be gentle with them, then how do we expect to be gentle with other adults? Or, okay, let's take a step back. How do you define gentle? Is gentle passive?
So no, because I believe a lot of people, whenever they hear gentle parenting, they think, okay, my child just smacked me. Oh, baby, I really didn't like it when you smacked me. Can you not smack me again? Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, that is definitely a different form of parenting. Gentle parenting actually falls under, there are 4 different types of parenting styles. And gentle parenting falls under this authoritative parenting where you allow your child to have choice. However, they still understand that you are the one who is here to lead them and guide them. So they have to learn how to respect you and follow what you tell them to do. But they still have a choice in the matter as far as the guidelines and things that you set up with them. So it's not this place of you just allowing your children to do anything, because that can be seen as neglectful parenting or permissive parenting. But more so with gentle parenting, in my eyes, it's taking that moment to realize, okay, I am frustrated in this moment. I need to take a step back, regulate myself, then come back to the situation. So now I can teach my child how to handle their emotions or how to talk to somebody in this particular situation.
That is so good. And that actually sounds a lot like God. We all have a choice of whether we're going to follow him or not, or whether we're going to be obedient to what he tells us to or not. But the guidelines are there. The respect better be there. The reverence better be there.
Okay.
But whether you are going to respond correctly or not is completely up to you. And there will be consequences. Like, you either choose the right way or you choose the wrong way.
Exactly. Either way.
I love the parallel. Yeah.
He is going to prune you either way.
So what unique challenges do you see that Black parents face when trying to practice gentle parenting, and how have you navigated through these in your own family? You're laughing. But because so something came to mind.
I'm just thinking about some of the moms that I've talked to and I've had the opportunity to work with. And it's like hearing some of their stories where it's, my child was jumping on the couch. And, in a Black household, you don't jump on furniture. That is just not something you do.
Exactly.
What are you doing? Down on that furniture because we paid some good money for it. And so one thing that I think is that oftentimes in the back of our heads, and it's not something that, it's something that happens out of observation from when we were a child, and it just kind of turns on whenever we're in that situation. And so the analogy that I love to use is, for example, your child is in the kitchen and they are taking pots and pans from out of the cabinets, and now all of a sudden they're beating on the pots and pans. Your initial reaction is to run in there, put my pots and pans away. Now you're spanking your child, yelling at your child, whatever the case may be, and it's not because of that's what is the proper consequence. It's instead because whenever you were a child, that's what happened to you. So a lot of the way we parent, because we don't have a manual, nobody gives us this guide to say, here, this is what you need to learn before you become a mom, before you become a dad. No, it's like we remember what our parents and how our parents raised us up, or what we saw whenever we were around our friends or other family members. And now those things come rushing at us whenever we're in a moment with our child where they're running away or they are writing on the wall. And so you just react in that moment because it's like, I have to do something right now. I can't let this behavior go on. Something needs to happen immediately.
Yeah.
And as parents, we sometimes have to, if a child is not in danger, harming somebody else, harming themselves, that's a moment for us to take a step back and look like, okay, what would be a proper consequence for my child writing on the wall? Instead of yelling at them, instead of spanking them, a proper consequence would look like hey, we don't write on the wall, so now you're going to come in here with me, grab some paper towels, some soap, some washcloth, and you're going to help clean this off.
Yeah.
So for me and my family, when it comes to gentle parenting, I'm reading all the books because, like I said, I was not raised in a gentle parent household. That's not what it was. More of an authoritarian household. So there wasn't much you get a say in anything. There was sneaking going on behind doors. Like our feelings weren't necessarily taken into consideration. But it's not to look at my parents as, oh, they were horrible. No, it's that they were using what they were taught,
what they were using,
and then they were using what they were taught. So it's just like this cycle. But so some of the challenges we have had as far as gentle parenting is just having to remember that we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. They are in this toddler stage, and I call them terrific 2s, but that 3-year-old is definitely going on a 3-nager. So I'm going to agree with that one for sure. But over here, it's terrific 2s. But it's understanding that a lot of the things that they are doing are actually very developmentally appropriate. So if my child is hitting, for example, right now, my 1-year-old, he's in this phase where he likes to hit things. He likes to bang on things. And sometimes he ends up hitting his sister. And so what I have done instead is I see, okay, that is something developmentally appropriate for you at this age. So yes, I'm going to correct you. Hey, we don't hit people. We don't hit in this family because hitting hurts. And that is not something that's nice or what we do. So now it's, let me see if I can find you something like a drum, or let me give you these 2 blocks that you can bang together. And that's the same as quote unquote hitting, but it's not him actually hitting somebody else. And instead of just smacking him, because I will never understand, why do we hit children whenever they've hit somebody else when we're telling them don't hit? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And I've definitely caught myself in those moments. And it it makes you stop and think, like, if I'm telling you not to hit your sister, but then I just hit you, I'm not sure how productive this is, but it goes back to what you were just saying. It's like a reflex. It's like, I'm trying to get you to understand that that's not okay, but me doing it back to you may not necessarily be okay. It's a lot.
It is. And it takes a lot, especially like how earlier you were just saying how sometimes when you get to those moments where it's like, I'm overstimulated, the TV's too loud, these kids calling my name 1,000 times, I done been asked to watch another split because it's their progress. And it's like
progress within the last 20 minutes.
And it's like, you are to this point of frustration. And when we get to that point of frustration, a lot of us, the way we want to take it out is by reacting with our hands.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very important to look at that and notice whenever you're getting to those moments and remove yourself from the situation. So that's one of the biggest things that I do. I remove myself from the situation.
Yeah. I have learned to do the same thing in my mommy moments. Like, okay, I need a second but mine are old enough to understand my warning, where it's like, if I said I need a second before I spaz and y'all still don't give me a second, at that point, you're just asking for it, because I just told you that I need a minute. And sometimes I'll even give them the details. This, and this has been going on all day. You're not listening. I've said the same thing 15 times. I'm going to go take a second. Now, if you choose to follow me, I don't know what to tell you at that point, because I'm trying to reset. I'm trying to regulate my own emotions. Right. And the same thing for them. If you are going through a period where, I think gentle parenting for me has also looked like teaching them to take their moment too, especially with having a preteen. If you need a second, it's not fair to take it out on everybody else. Just like I can't take it out on you guys, you don't need to be taking it out on everyone. Now, if you have something to talk about, we can talk about it. But I probably still need you to go take a minute first to even figure out why you're upset, because you might not even know.
And I was gonna say, I love that you do that with them. Like whenever you get to that point, and it's, hey, this is what's on my schedule. This is what's been happening. Then add on top of that, children who aren't listening, children who haven't done this, and I've told them 50 million times. And then the day when you had told me, like Lyric was like, "Oh yeah, okay." Then I would be frustrated too, because now that's another piece of where you're showing your children, instead of just hearing, well, when you have your own kids, you'll understand. But no, like now it's like, okay, I'm understanding that these are some of the things that are going to happen. Now they don't see it as that right now, because that's not how they're thinking. But when they get older, they can say, oh yeah, my mama actually talked to me about this, where that moment when she was about ready to, and she told us like, listen, this is what's happening right now, and I need y'all to woosah.
Yeah. I do that too, so that they don't feel like I'm just saying that you guys were my last straw. Because I feel like if I'm explaining it all to them, and then I'm like, well, how would you feel if you were in my shoes at this moment? Would you also feel overwhelmed? I hope that it takes away from them feeling like, oh, well, we were the cause of mommy needing a moment. Like, no, not necessarily. But all of these things together will cause me to do that. And I try to give them examples too when I'm asking them to do something. Like if Lyric is supposed to be making breakfast, but her brother is saying this and Kay is saying that, and then I'm asking her another question and now she's frustrated. I'm like,
This is what I feel.
You need a moment, huh?
You need a preteen moment, huh?
Yeah, she typically will roll her eyes, but I'm like, yeah, now you understand that it's a lot, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to be with you guys. It doesn't mean that you're like the cause of anything. It's a lot.
It is.
So what do you do when both parents may not fully understand the gentle parenting, or the whole family is trying to parent your child in a totally different way? How do you approach that if you are the parent that is trying to gentle parent? Because I feel like that's real big in the Black community too. There's a lot of, well, you turned out fine and I did this with everybody else.
And I'm just going to say right now, may not be ready to accept this, but you are not fine. It just might not show up in the way that others are seeing it. But that is another topic for another day. So in this area, I'm actually still working on it, because for us, I am the more gentle approach, and we have this conversation where it's like, yeah, you're a nurturer, you're a mom, so of course you're going to have that more gentle approach. But I love that for us, we have this open communication where we're talking about it and we're sharing like, okay, this is why I handled this situation this way. Now, are we always going to agree? No, because I'm still very much like, children shouldn't be hit. There are other ways that you can teach them, because if our goal is to actually teach them so that they can do better, then how does hitting them teach them anything, except we're disrespecting their bodies? Like, we don't want anybody to disrespect our bodies in that way, so let's not disrespect their bodies in that way. But I think one of the biggest things with this, I would definitely say, is communicating, like where your standpoint is, so that both of y'all can get a ground on, okay, this is why I handle this situation this way. Also, make sure that whenever there's a situation and a child is doing something, if your child is not being hurt, then that is not the time for you to come rushing in. Well, you shouldn't do it like that.
No,
instead, you should, with your children, in front of your children, you are supposed to be one.
Yeah.
So that, if that was like something that's like, dang, I really didn't like the way he did that, in that moment, you stand right there with him and you went, Now, when you get in the room that later that night, then that's when you bring it up, but not in front of the kids, because then that shows the kids that y'all are divided, and that they can, okay, well, with mama, I know that she won't swoop in, so I can just go ahead and do what I'm doing, let daddy fuss at me, and then go back to it when it's just me and mama, because he's not around. So,
and they will.
Yes.
They will surely they will find that second of weakness, and your facial expressions count too. And that's something I have to work on too. If it's something that I may not have fully agreed on, I'm like, I'm gonna keep a straight face.
Coach mode to friend mode. Grandma
Yeah.
was approachable.
Yeah, because it's like, even if it's a second of like, I probably would have said that differently. I literally, because they will immediately look at me, and I'm just like, what he said. Now, if we need to come back and address it together later with you, then that's what we'll do. But that united front is so, so, so important because the kids will exploit it very quickly. And they do that with other family members too. Like if grandparents are not on the same page, they will in a heartbeat be like, oh, well, I'll just ask grandma or I'll just ask granddad. No, you won't. Or you can ask them, but I said what I said.
And best believe that grandma already knows. Because I had the conversation with her since she decided, I'm just going to go ask grandma. Oh, wait till you get there this weekend.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask. And the answer will still be no. It'll be in my closet. I win. No. I'm just joking. With the parents that you have worked with so far, what do you see are like the biggest trauma scenarios that impact the way that we parent? Is it the parenting style, I guess, that is like super in your face and borderline controlling, or is it the ones that have a little too much freedom? Like, what are you saying is like a trend in our generation?
This is a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is, so we have different people on different spectrums of this. Because there are some moms who I've talked to where parents were full on like, you're going to be horrible because we were like this. That's how you're going to treat your child, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, that's some things that I'm seeing. And then there is the other. I just had a really strict parent. And so because of their strictness and not being able to do anything, not having any type of leniency, I, went out and was buck wild. And so that's where a lot of times that piece of, I don't want my kids to be like that, because we remember how we were when we were around that age, or when we got to a certain point. It's like, I have to be that strict, or I have to be, in their face like this, because I don't want them to end up doing the things that I did.
Yeah. That made me think about a couple of months ago planning for Lyric's party. And I know now the great thing about parenting is it's still a learning experience, but I was trying to take this whole approach of, I want her to be a part of this planning process. I want to know what she wants, what she feels. And the part that I forgot was to give any, boundaries. Somehow in that whole conversation, I didn't give her a limit of the people. I didn't give her I don't know where I was, guys. I was genuinely just trying to figure out what she wanted. And it very quickly spiraled into beyond what my capacity could hold. And Aaliyah knows, because I was well, if you know me personally, if you were watching as I was like telling you guys in my Instagram stories or whatever, then you know that it very quickly was starting to irritate me, because I didn't provide any like, okay, you could have this. She had two options. You either have the party at the place that you wanted, and it's only going to be for an hour, which is insane for the amount of money that they're charging us, or you could give mommy a chance to give you the party that you actually want, but it's going to be here. And I didn't put any other boundaries around that, because I wanted, again, I didn't want to tell her what she wanted to do.
I was going to say, with the one at the house, was there a boundary set that you got to clean up if we do it at the house?
I should have. I should have made.
You were part of the cleanup crew?
Listen. It is the grace of God that that party turned out as amazing as it did, and that we had so much assistance from our families. Because I was so focused on what I was trying not to do, that the boundaries were not there, and it caused a lot of unnecessary stress.
Right.
And when I could have just said, huh?
I was going to say, you just spoke on something. Go ahead and finish. But
I could have just said, you have this amount of people, and then that's it. But I didn't. And it turned into a whole lot of people. And and then it was raining. So yeah, it was just, we're not even going on that whole, that might have to be an episode in itself. But what you said made me really think about how sometimes we're so focused on what we're not trying to do and not really taking apart what we might have experienced and the good parts of it. Because like you said, everything that our parents did was not bad.
No.
So my parents giving me boundaries for things was not a bad idea, actually.
Not at all. Not at all.
But I missed that part because I was so focused on trying to let her have what she wanted. Because, 10-year-olds, I didn't want her to feel like, oh, my mom is giving me this party that my friends are going to talk about. I was trying so hard to walk on eggshells that I missed the mom part of it, to be honest, until about a week or two in. And then mom had to show up like, listen.
Hey, we got to change.
Let's rewind. Let's start over because this is a lot.
But you coming into my Bible study, okay? Because so 2 Corinthians, I know it's chapter 8. It's somewhere around after verse 8. But it was just saying that we have not, those who have gathered much have not gathered too much, and those who have gathered little have not gathered too little. And so it's just this thing where it all ties back into how oftentimes we look at the lack. We look at, oh, well, I don't have enough money, or I don't have this in my house, but they have this. We're always looking at the lack. And I think we do that in parenting as well, is where, okay, well, I didn't have this growing up, so this is what I want to give them. Or I was able to do this, so now I want them to have that experience. And that's where it gets into this place where we have these wild expectations, which some of those ideas that we have are actually extremely beautiful. However, it's like, are you meant to do that? Has God actually called you to? Have you talked to God about it first to see if that is the place that he was leading you to parent your child, to set this thing up for your child, to allow your child to have this moment? And so it's just remembering that instead of looking at the lack, like, yes, some of us, I'm going to use me for an example. I never grew up in a house except for my grandparents' house. But as far as having a mom and a dad in the house together, that was not what I grew up with. And so instead of looking at this lack and being like, well, I didn't have that, now I am very happy in my relationship. But it was like where me and him were fighting like cats and dogs. And I'm like, well, I didn't have that, so I want to have this, so I'm just going to make it work anyway. Now you're going against what God is actually wanting for you, because you're not meant to be in a relationship like that. You're not meant to be with kids and that type of toxicity. So with that, you have to remember to also bring God into it. And yes, there were some things that you didn't get to have as a child, and you can bring that in, but make sure it's following the plan that God has for you and his will over your life.
That is so good. I think you stepped on a few toes with that one, because we do sometimes try to go after things that were not meant for us because we are trying to heal from a trauma we may or may not even realize is there, and it affects our kids. So that's
Look, because I'm like, oh, Jesus. And I'm on the opposite end of that, where for me, it's not that I'm in a relationship where, I really actually need to get out of this because it's harming my children. It's that the easiest thing for me to do is actually push away. And so I've always been a person that as soon as something comes up and I'm like, it makes me nervous, or I don't know what's going to come out of it, whatever the case may be, my first thing is to drop it. So the easiest thing for me to do is drop it and go on about my day. And God has been like showing me that is what I need you to turn the other way from. Keep fighting for it. So instead of just easily letting it go, I want you to actually do the hard work and keep pushing through, keep moving forward, endure forever.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a relationship convo right there, because relationships are not, they're not easy. And that's platonic or romantic. Like, they're not easy. You got to work in a relationship.
And that's like,
And I think we're so used to just having everything easy right now that nobody wants to work for anything. Look, we're not gonna go there. This is
look, I was just gonna tie it back in. Your kids are watching. Your kids are watching how you talk to other people, which that's like
they
another
are.
really strong point that I'm trying to make for my children. Because
Yeah.
again, from my childhood, if y'all notice, all of this goes back to my childhood because it all starts with us as children and how we have to heal from those things so that we can be able to better teach our kids. But I was not taught how to be friends to other people or how to make friends or how to keep friends. Because for me, friends were usually in business with you. So it means that the only time that you probably talk to each other is when y'all had a meeting. Or my friend lived 2 states over. We talked every 3 months. Like, that's what I saw as friendship. So as I got older, having friends that like wanted to talk, wanted to hang out all the time, I looked like, what are you doing and why? Please stop talking to me.
Yeah.
But we are teaching our children how to be friends with other people. They're watching to see whenever we go out to stores. How is mommy talking? Does she talk to that person? And my children now, I notice, I'm like, dang, I must really say hey to everybody that I pass by. Because whenever we're going in stores, they say hey to every person we pass by. But even in our relationships and our friendships, our children are watching to see how to interact with other people.
That is so good. I want to go back to the scripture that we brought up in the beginning. It was spare the rod, spoil the child. And I want to know from the intentional mama perspective, from the gentle parenting perspective, from the Christian perspective, what do you feel that scripture actually meant? Because I've been hearing this outside of our conversation. It's been a topic in quite a few other conversations that I've come across. And I never thought about it. It was always like, it's a thing, you know, the Bible says spare the rod, spoil the child. So that means that you're supposed to discipline your kid. Absolutely. But who made the definition of what spared the rod meant? So I want to know, what is your perspective on that? And that's not to say that everybody that is listening, including myself, is going to automatically just like flip a switch and now all of a sudden we have mastered gentle parenting and, you know, we've got this thing down packed. But
it would be nice if it was that easy.
it would be amazing if it was that easy. But I do want to know what your perspective is on that particular scripture. Yeah.
So first, this is why it's extremely important to read your word for yourself.
For yourself.
Because if you actually go, and I'm pretty sure that's Proverbs 13, but if you actually go and look at that scripture, it does not say spare the rod, spoil the child. It actually says spare the rod and chastise. I don't even know how to say that word, but it basically means discipline.
Chastise.
Look, God, he loves some names and some words that take a little bit more studying to be able to. But yes, it actually says that we have to discipline our children. It's not saying that you have to whoop your child. It's not saying yell at your child. Instead, it is saying discipline. And if we break down what discipline means, discipline is guiding and teaching. And to take it even further back, because I'm not going to school y'all a little too much on this, but I did a workshop on this a couple months ago, where in the workshop we did like a deep study of this scriptures that connect to it, and what discipline and sparing the rod, spoil the child actually looks like. But if we think back to shepherds, whenever they had a sheep that went out of the line of the flock, they did not beat them to get back in line. Instead, they took their rod, their staff, and they slowly guided them back over. And that is what we are supposed to be doing as parents as well. It's not beating it in them. It's taking that to, if you have to keep doing it over and over again, it is going to get tedious. But maybe you have to do it in a different way because your child doesn't respond well to that. But constantly guiding them back over on the right path.
So I had to pull it up.
Come on,
Proverbs 13 and 24.
Come on.
And it says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Now hold up, because we in a generation that don't like the KJV version, right? Hold on.
Look, I got you. I
Hold
got
on.
NASB.
Okay, because I was going to pull up the NIV version.
So he who withholds his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him diligently.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not me. I needed to hear that one again.
Wow. I love that you said the rod was used to guide them, because that's literally what we're doing. We are not in control of these children. God is. And we are giving the important responsibility to guide them through life, to guide them to God, to guide them to be decent human beings.
In the best way that we can.
In the best way that we can. And I'm glad you said that, because the best way that we can also means focusing on how we can be better too. Part of the reason why I started therapy was so that my kids would be better, so that these very things that I was dealing with would not be carried on to them. If I knew that anxiety was one of the things that I was dealing with, but I could see little pieces of it in one of my kids, then I need to tackle where mine is coming from so that I can help them work through it. And that's literally what you're doing as the intentional mama. You are trying to show us, like, hey, do you even know why you responded like that? Mm-hmm. Do you know why your kid is like super, super clingy and you're kind of pushing them away because you don't know how to respond to that? I'm guilty. Right. Do you know like why being called 5,000 times is triggering for you? Like, these are all things that we go through every single day, but nobody has really, unless, you know, of course we have the intentional mama as a friend or a mentor, but we're not mindful of these things, and it's unintentionally affecting our kids.
Mm-hmm. And we don't even realize it.
So how do you, this is, I think, my last question, but how do you gentle parent when you have kids that are completely different? So I have, for example, one kid who is probably a little easier, as long as we have a routine, a little easier to gentle parent. I mean, right. She's not easier in general. There is no easy kid. Full disclosure, before y'all come for me, I'm not saying,
because there are days when one might be easier than the other.
Yes. Thank you. Let's clarify before y'all jump down my throat. Might be easier personality wise to gentle parents. And by that, I mean, I can give a schedule or routine, and for the most part, they're going to stick with it. But then you may have another who was like, routine what? Schedule what? I do what I want. How do you try to gentle parent two or more totally different personalities, totally different kids? Is it the same gentle parenting but different methods? Like, how do you do that?
First of all, Mama, take a deep breath. Because this is not easy. It is not easy at all. And so I have to think back to being an educator and being a teacher. So in the classroom, we are expected to teach sometimes 20 to 30 children using this method.
That's why my kids are homeschooled.
Look, we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But it's like that. So we have to realize that first is being aware that each of your children are different. They are not all going to like the same things, do the same things, act the same way. And so you have to know your kids. You have to know, like, for example, my daughter, I can sit her in front of a TV, put on Paw Patrol, and she will watch that entire movie and then go and watch the next one. My son, on the other hand, Paw Patrol, who, what, where, and why? Where is my mama? Yeah. So with that being the case, I have to know who he is as a person, and remembering that our kids are people. They are humans. They are not just these people that we birth that we get to tell what to do. But instead, we have to look at them like you have your own personality. You have your preferences, dislikes. And so it's taking that and learning how different approaches of gentle parenting work with them. So, for example, for one, you might hey, you need a reset. Go into the room for a second, take out your journal, write, Or for another one, it might be, hey, we need a one-to-one. So, sweetheart, while I talk to your brother, I need you to go take a moment over here, play with this toy, and I'm going to come back to you. Now, me and you, sir, we're here. Whenever you're ready, I will be right here for you to talk. And so, but it's that trial and error that we have to go through, which is the hardest part, because it feels like, dang, this is never going to come together. Like my schedule, I thought that thing was never going to come together. But it's trial and error. And not only that, it's also sometimes having somebody else who is not in your situation coming in and looking at it from a different perspective.
For sure. I love that. One thing that I was taught in a podcast interview, actually from season 1, I was talking to another mom, and she said that one thing she started to do was to ask God to show her each kid individually and to explain to her the mom that they needed. And that since we did that episode, that has like changed my perspective. It has changed my life literally, because I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. The mom that one might need is not the mom that another one might need. And when I come to the realization that I need to go to God first to figure out who they need, and I mean, including my husband, who do y'all need for me to be today? Which was another thing she specified. What do they need from me today? Right. And I was just like, wow. Because until I figure that out, which I'm not going to figure out naturally, it's literally going to God to show me like something that I might miss. They actually had a sad look on their face when they came home from school today, and I missed it because I was doing something else. But if I'm asking God constantly to show me who they are and who they need me to be each day, I'm going to see that. And now I know, okay, they might actually need a couple more minutes today. Right. And this other kid has been skipping around. They might be fine. So that 5 minutes that maybe they might have gotten might need to go to somebody else. Right. And it might be that I can be a little bit busier today, or I might actually need to put some stuff on the back burner because this individual in my household, which is my first responsibility, needs me more than whatever else was on my list.
Yes. Ooh, that intentionality.
The intentionality. It's deep.
It is.
It's hard, but it makes a difference.
And that's why it really all goes back to us. We have to learn how to slow down sometimes, because as moms, we're always on the go, because we got to clean this. We got to cook this. We got to make sure this person's ready. We got to make sure that this is done. And when we're in this upbeat of the day, sometimes we can miss out on those moments with our kids. And so sometimes whenever you just notice, it's like, okay, I'm really about to get to that point. Take a pause, slow down. If you got to, start naming things. Now, I've heard that this actually helps people. Start naming like 5 things that you can see. 4 things that you can hear. 3 things that you can touch. It's like bringing yourself back and utilizing your senses. 2 things that you can smell. Yeah, we got one more other sense.
I was sitting here thinking, so like, wait.
One thing you can taste. I don't think I said taste. But just taking that moment, whatever it takes to get you to slow down and be like, okay, let me figure out what this child needs. And there are times like Destiny, I know how you said that having that mom like share that she asked God today, how can I help this child today? What kind of mom, what kind of wife can I be to them today? There are also times where in the middle of the moment, if you have to, I will sometimes scream because it's like, okay, Lord, I got one baby on one side hollering, the other one, mama, 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 God, I can't do this right now. Please help. And I'm like screaming in the middle of the kitchen. Like, you said I could come to you to ask for help. Hello, I'm asking. But even in the moment, that's what he wants from us. He wants us to come to him because he is our help. Yeah. He's literally our Ebenezer. He was sent here for us, for him to help us. So ask him for it. Even in those moments where you're overwhelmed, it's like the last thing I want to do is that. That's the first thing that we should do. Yeah.
So do you think that the key to gentle parenting is your relationship with God?
Oh, most definitely. Oh, most definitely, because there are a lot of things that God had to reveal to me. And sometimes it's through other people. And sometimes it's through people that you don't want to hear from.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
a lot of the healing I have gone through is because of the amazing man that God has blessed me to call my fiance, soon husband.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yes,
are a
fiance.
lot. There's a lot of things, like we just talked about this, and we talk about it often, but we talked about it recently where I was like, I thought it was the bomb.com. Like, you couldn't tell me nothing. And then I was like, but then you started like talking to me about some stuff, how like, hey, I don't really think that you've processed that. I don't think you've healed from that. Like, there's some things you do. And like, once he started pointing them things out, I was like, oh, okay. Then let me go take this to God. All right, God. So it's like
this man that you done sent me said.
So yeah, like it all goes back to him. I would not be able to parent these kids the way that I parent them without his strength, because it's not in mine.
Absolutely.
It's all in his strength. So I have to give all glory and honor to him, because God is the only reason that I can do it.
Absolutely, because we don't have the amount of patience that God has. We don't have the capacity that God has. Mm-mm. It literally has to be a gift from God.
Because us as his older children, we don't listen.
No, we don't.
So for him to have the patience with us, yeah, that only comes from
him. I know I'll be on his nerve.
Every single day. Here she go again.
Asking me the same thing. When she still ain't do the last thing I told her to do. Like our kids. You still asking me to go outside and your room still ain't clean. God is doing the exact same thing with us.
Okay.
You still asking me. You still asking me for a financial blessing, and I've been told you to post that video.
Ouch.
You still asking me for this man, and I've been told you to start therapy.
Okay.
I've been told you to read the word. Yeah. But we can be mad at our kids because we've been told them to do stuff. Yeah. It's definitely something to think about. Like, I'm joking, but like, it's definitely something to think about.
Like, just
because I'm always saying, I done already told you. Did you do what I asked you? Did you do the last thing I asked you to do yet? And when you turn that around and look at yourself, like, God, did I do the last thing that you told me to do?
No, you did.
No, probably not. Did I do it in completion? Oh, let me get off.
Look, cause you really deep in my Bible study, okay? I was not trying to bring this all out on the table.
I do it to completion because yes, you cleaned your room, but I still see mess.
Come on, Destiny. Come on,
Destiny. That you haven't cleaned up yet.
But it's not only that, it's also how did you do it? What tone? How did you do it as far as with an attitude? Or did you come with an open heart and thinking everything that I do is for the glory of God? Did you come ready to spank your child because it was from your own frustration? Or as some people, this hurts me more than it hurts you? Or was that because God told you that's how you should handle it?
They're not going to listen to the rest of the season.
Yes, they are. They are, because they're going to be like, that hurt, that was an ouch, but I think I need to hear it. Matter of fact, next.
But it's I am openly processing. So that's where all of this is coming from. Like, wow. I say this stuff constantly. Did you do what I told you to do? In completion, without an attitude. Did you stomp? Did you stomp your way down the hallway to go do what I said? Or did you say yes, ma'am? Or yes, Lord? Not me being Lord, but flipping it back to me. Did I do what he told me to do with an attitude?
So, yeah.
Reluctantly.
There's also something like, as you say that, I know there are some people who look at gentle parenting and they're like, it does not align with what God says in his word. But like I said, whenever you think of gentle parenting, you take it back to scripture. God, one of the fruits of the spirit is to be gentle. He is calling us to be gentle. We're supposed to be gentle and loving and kind to one another. And that includes these babies.
Mm-hmm.
So
because that's what they are.
If you ask me, gentle parenting is definitely something in God's will.
If you do it correctly, because as we stated in the beginning, we don't mean just letting your kid do whatever. We don't mean, Johnny, now you know you shouldn't do things like that. You can't hit mommy. That's not what we're talking about.
No, because
We're
that is
talking
a
about
different form of parenting style, and
that's
it's
not
not what you think
parenting.
it is.
That's something else. But that's not what we're shut up, Aaliyah. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see why we just keep cracking up because the facial expressions are giving more than our words sometimes. But we gonna end here before we get ourselves in trouble because
y'all really gonna be looking like,
But it's the truth. We are going to try to do better. We are going to not try to perfect gentle parenting, but we are going to try to be more gentle with our children and understanding that God has given us the responsibility to guide them in the right direction, just the same way that He is guiding us.
give yourself grace. Be
and give
with
yourself. Yes, be gentle with everybody. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Everybody needs a little bit more mercy than we're giving them these days, including our children, including ourselves, including our significant other. If you just take this approach with life, and the approach being, God, show me how to deal with people in general in the most gentle way, in the way that you see fit, because Jesus didn't go around being rude and ignorant to everybody either. So, Lord, show me my family needs and what their definition of gentle is and how you want me to be for them, then I think we'll be fine. Because we'll still get the discipline. We'll still get the gentle. We'll still get our kids are, respectful. Look, and all that.
Gentle and bold. God calls us to be bold too. Gentle and bold.
Gentle and bold.
You gotta.
I will boldly put you in your place gently.
You gotta ask Him. Do they need the lion right now or the sheep?
Yeah, because He will guide you. Literally, just go to God. That's what this all is. That's what this is about. Go to God. Ask Him what your significant other, what your children need from you to be the best version of yourself, because we can't be the best at anything, but the best version of yourself so that you can pour into your family. This was awesome. This felt like a regular conversation.
It's like one of our daily talks.
One of them, yeah. It's just that this one was recorded in all of our silliness. So if a mom is listening and she really wants to know more about gentle parenting, she wants to see you in action with your own babies, and how are you possibly doing this and running a business and trying to run a household and be there for your fiance and all the things. They want to know how you can help them find the trauma that they are reacting from.
Look, you said
where do they find you at?
And I'm like, Jesus, yeah, I'd be saying them, and it doesn't sound like all of those titles and hats and things that I do, but yes. But you can find me on all social media at The Very Intentional Mama. You can check me out on my website at organizedcreator.com. And yeah, I'm just literally giving whatever God calls me to give in the best way that I can, because I know from somebody who was not raised up in it, it is difficult trying to figure it out on your own, and you don't have to do it on your own.
No, you don't. You now have the intentional mama to help you.
Yes.
Okay. So make sure, because I'm going to put all that information in the show notes, make sure that you are following her and engaging.
Yes.
Crickets. Engaging. And that you are following, liking, subscribing, letting us know what's in this episode impacted you. I need you to go and do that for me so that other moms will be able to find these episodes in this podcast. And this podcast was created so that more moms like you are able to be inspired. And I am currently in season 2. I'm so excited about that. Season 2 of Motherhood Makeup and Mindset. We're releasing a new episode every Wednesday for your midweek pick-me-up. Again, follow Aaliyah, follow this podcast, follow me on social media as well, so that we can continue to see how you guys are adapting this gentle parenting while Black. All right. Until next week, I will see you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Motherhood Makeup and Mindset podcast. Remember to keep chasing your dreams and become the woman God created you to be. See you later.